Good morning, everybody. I am thrilled to have you. I'm going to give everybody just a minute or two, and I will introduce myself and our other speakers, and we'll just have some fun, have a relaxed conversation. There'll be plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. All right, why don't we get going? First of all, thank you for joining me, and Liz and Jan. We have been doing these sessions for several years now because folks question, I'm thinking of selling my home. What is the preparation process? How do I get ready? What of all the pieces? You know, it's not as simple as it was in days of old when we used to put a sign in the front lawn and, you know, things were different, especially with the COVID-19 situation. We're being very careful about showing properties. We don't really do public open houses the way they used to be done. So I'm happy to talk about that a little bit at the end if you'd like. In the meantime, let me introduce myself. My name is Laurie Cadigan, and I have been in the real estate business for almost 33 years. I just look like I'm 25. But I have been the owner of Barrett Sotheby's International Realty I'm starting my 15th year, which is amazing to me. I bought the company in 2007 from Jane Barrett, who was the founder of the company. It was a 30 some odd year organization at that time, and we've been in business in the local market for over 40 years. We have about to have 8 offices in the territory. We call it the Patriots Trail: Winchester, Lexington, Bedford, Acton, Lincoln, Concord, and soon to be Westford. And over 160 agents, all incredibly talented and professional. But today we're here to talk about your home and your preparation and the process that you'd go through to start beginning to think about what you'd like to do related to your home purchase. What I'd like to do, we are going to record the session. I'm going to ask my technical advisor to mute you all. We don't want to be hearing things that, you know, you're here to listen to a couple of speakers. We want you to pay attention to that and make sure that everybody can hear properly. And then I'm happy at the end to open up the mic to all of you for questions. We're here as long as you'd like. The beauty of this being virtual, obviously, is that we can record the session so that, you know, if you wanted the link to it, we could send it to you later if you've missed anything. Also, one of the things is that we didn't have to set up a room this morning. You didn't have to come out in the cold this morning. It's, you know, in many ways, our new virtual reality has been very positive. And it's actually been pretty positive for showing properties and buying properties. So I'll chat a little bit about that. I'm going to share my screen now. John, I'm assuming that everybody's muted, and I'm going to start to share my screen. I am hoping that you can see that. Obviously, this is an indication that you're in the right place. You're here for some expert advice, and this is a session on preparing your home for sale. We are doing some downsizing sessions as well. There is different content in them, and there are different speakers. So if you feel like this has given you a real broad brush on preparing your home for sale, and you think maybe you'd like a little more help on, frankly, the downsizing process, you know, do you buy before you sell? What do you do with your stuff? All of that. We go into a little deeper dive on the downsizing sessions, which are happening next week and then 2 weeks from now. So I'll give you a little hint. I think the links are the same. So if you hold on to this link, you can join us for the next 3 Saturdays to talk about all of that. The selling season is always a good question. You know, people say, oh, I have to be on the market in the spring. Well, you don't have to necessarily be on the market in the spring. We sell houses 12 months out of the year. Does the spring bring more buyers? Absolutely. First of all, in New England, the properties look a little better in the spring because your flowers are in bloom and, you know, landscaping is done and people want to be out versus in. But about 60% of our properties go under agreement in the New England area from now until the end of June. Most people want to be in their property before summer vacations. That said, all bets are off last year and this year. It's been a very different season. So the seasonality that we have typically seen, we haven't really seen through the pandemic. But a traditional market, about 60% would be through the end of June, and then we sell the other 40% from the 1st of July through the holidays. And we do indeed sell properties through the holidays. You know, there are people who are transferring or children who are changing school systems or So, the selling season is a 12-month cycle. There is a higher demand, but also more competitive properties in the spring. So sometimes you will find that you get a better value in the fall. There's less competition when you put your home on the market in the fall. It really is the best time for you. We're very clear about not rushing people into this process. You really need to be ready. It can be a lot of work. It can be a lot of stress, frankly. We try to minimize that, but it is still a move. So it needs to be the right time for you. We provide a market evaluation both qualitatively and quantitatively. I'm sure you have been on sites like Zillow for Zestimates and other programs that will give you sort of a feel for what the pricing of your property would be. There is a quantitative element to it. And the good news is there's a qualitative element to it, and that's what your realtor will provide. Either, the quantitative statistical number crunching of what does your home look like, what do other homes in the market look like that have sold, what is your assessed value to your sale price, what is the cost per square footage. So there's that number crunching element, and then there's the element of a realtor going in knowing that they have seen all of those competitive properties and will take a look at how you actually compare qualitatively. Is your kitchen updated? Is your backyard in a finer location or a larger landscaped area than the competitive property we're comparing to? So it really, if it could be done by nuts and bolts by a computer, we would be doing it that way. And unfortunately, that's not the way it happens. So you want to make sure that you reach out to a realtor who's knowledgeable in the area, has seen the competitive properties, and can give you an analysis. And we'll talk about how that happens later on if you'd like us to help you with that. There's a difference between market value and market preparation. Market value is going to be the positioning and the pricing of your home. Market preparation is what we're going to talk about today. Most people concentrate, the selling cycle is to prepare your property, to position it pricing wise and as it compares to competitive properties in the market, and then market the property, and then hopefully we get you to move. Most people concentrate on the positioning and the marketing and not the preparation. And I'm here today to tell you that the preparation of the property equals dollars. The more preparation you can do to prepare your home for the majority of buyers, increase the buyer pool of your property, the better that you will see your net proceeds. I'm sure that you have seen all of the HGTV and fixer-upper shows, and not every home has to look like Chip and Joanna Gaines have remodeled it. But there is an element of neutralizing the property so that it appeals to a broader group of buyers, and we'll talk about that. There is cost versus value. A lot of times, realtors can save you a lot of money if you invite us in early enough, because many people will say, oh my goodness, I'm looking at the television shows and I understand that this is what's selling, or I've looked at an open house down the street and they had a brand new kitchen. Many times we don't want you to do too much more investing than you already have, because a new consumer may come in and totally change the kitchen. So I caution you to try to involve a professional, whether it's Jan and Liz or one of our realtors, to come in ahead of time to give you an idea of, don't put granite countertops on oak cabinets that the consumer is probably going to take out. Freshen up, neutralize, do some preparation. We'll talk about that. But we try to save you the money on your current purchase so that you can move it to your next purchase or your next lifestyle. So there is definitely a evaluation between cost and value. I'll give you an example, and later on I'm going to offer you some handouts that I can email you. There is a cost versus value report. In the area of Boston, in the New England area, it costs about $80,000 to do a full kitchen remodel. That means new appliances, countertops, cabinets, flooring, X and so. It's a major investment. The cost versus value report has claimed that you only get about 52% of that back when you actually sell your property. So, you know, it may help your property sell faster. It may give you a larger pool of buyers to choose from, but it may not necessarily dollar for dollar give you that return. Something like a garage door that costs you $4,000 is going to be 100% back in your pocket, because it's going to freshen up the curb appeal of the property. People are going to think that, you know, you've done a great job at stewarding your property. So there's a definite element of which improvements should you do to realize a return, and which improvements should you keep, you know, for the buyer's next plan. There is a seller's description of condition that we typically use when we're putting property on the market. And obviously, a lot of properties have a home inspection. This gentleman looks like he's kind of nasty, and I will tell you, most of them are not nasty. They're very nice, but their job is to kind of uncover areas that the buyer should be concerned about. And most of the time, they find things. They find things that you didn't know about, that you did know about. We call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. But today's market, a lot of people, I'm sure you're hearing from the news, that they are waiving their home inspection because we have a lack of inventory. Buyers are doing anything they can to be the one for you to select as a seller. But still, you should be prepared for a home inspection, because in today's market with New England homes, most people want to uncover any concerns. And they're looking for big ticket items. Let's talk about a few of them. Roofing, siding, chimneys, any water damage. Those are areas that you really should pay attention to and really should be corrected before you market your property. And as realtors, we are not home inspectors, but you can see an awful lot through a walkthrough, and we will point out areas of concern. Many times we'll walk through a home and we'll point to a ceiling that looks like it's got a water stain, and the homeowner will say, well, I fixed that, you know, several years ago. Well, it's a good idea to paint the ceiling so that it's not called out to the buyer that you have a problem or had a problem, and that you've taken care of it. Chimneys are a big issue. You know, many people don't use their fireplaces, but the new buyer wants to know that they can use a fireplace. So a chimney sweep or a cleaning or maybe some repointing, always a good idea to make sure that your chimney's in good shape. Water issues are issues. You know, we've had several years where people have had one water issue in their basement, or their bulkhead is leaking, etc. That seller's description will allow you to explain some of that, but most buyers want to know that they can put their belongings in a dry basement. Do you have a sump pump? You know, is it time to put in a sump pump? Those kinds of things are areas where buyers tend to be concerned. Other critical items include systems. Your furnace, is it serviced regularly? If it hasn't been, we want you to get it serviced before you put it on the market. Buyers, for whatever reason, and home inspectors love those little tags hanging off the furnace or the boiler that says, I was recently here and this piece of equipment is operating up to standards, and, you know, we're good to go. Now they come with equipment, you know, computer equipment. They put the temperature gauge on the hot water heater. So they're going to do a pretty deep dive into, you know, the elements and the systems of your home. Appliances, they do not turn on a dishwasher, but they will investigate, you know, ranges, refrigerators, those kinds of things. They want to make sure that they're all in working order. And if something is not up to speed, you know, if you have to kick the dishwasher in order to get the dishes clean, it's probably time to swap out your dishwasher, because the buyer is going to be looking for something that's operable. Septic systems are another. I could do an hour on septic systems. You do need, in the state of Massachusetts, to transfer title, especially with a mortgage by the buyer, of Title V certified septic system. That doesn't mean when you flush the toilet that everything goes in the right place. What it means is that the septic system itself has to be operable and not leaching into areas of public groundwater. So it's best to get your septic system pumped and certified. The time frame for that window is you can sell the property within a 2-year period of getting your Title V certification. If you pump it every year, that certification is good for 3 years. So if you're thinking of selling next year and you think maybe this would be the time for you to make sure that the septic system is up and running, give someone a call, have them pump it, have them certify it, and know that it's good for the next 2-year selling cycle. Many people want to make sure that they do their Title V when it's not in the middle of the rainy spring. Not a bad idea. So we can always chat with you about those elements. You want the system to be in an operable state in normal conditions, not in the middle of a windstorm. So those are very important. I'm going to give you a list of vendors that we typically use. If you tell them that you're working with Barrett, Sotheby's International Realty, you're likely to get a quicker call back. We do give repeated business to many of our vendors that help our buyers and sellers to evaluate systems and repair systems. So we'll talk about that at the end of the session. Curb appeal is really important. Your landscaping, obviously in the middle of winter, things look a little different, but we do go out and take beautiful real estate pictures just after a snowstorm. There's an element of people driving by. Now it's not even that they're driving by, they can actually Google Earth to take a look at your property. So you want to make sure that the curb appeal, you're well maintained, it's uncomplicated, doesn't look like to a consumer that they're going to have to spend millions of dollars on a landscaper or lots of weekends weeding. So minimizing and making sure that your curb appeal landscaping wise is important. First impressions, like a front door, the white door obviously doesn't look as appealing as the blue door. So for a minimum amount of money, a new kick plate, maybe a new handle, maybe a fresh coat of paint, some potted plants, any of that curb appeal is going to really, bring back dollars to you. Obviously, these are beautiful, pops of color. But there's millions of ways that you can see. Our own Phillips Hardware, I think, has a lovely brochure from Benjamin Moore on the most common door colors. So that's a possibility. And we, as realtors, and Jan and Liz, are happy to weigh in on any color that you're thinking about. Windows should be cleaned before you put the property on the market. Your basements, people are expecting you to have stuff in your basements, but it should be clean and organized and able for people to walk around. Garage is the same. They want to make sure that they're going to be able to put their snowblower, their children's bikes, their cars into a garage. So you want to make sure that the garage is as clean and tidy as possible. Many times we recommend that you paint the flooring of the garage or the basement, just because it gives it a fresh appeal. Decluttering is huge. I can't talk enough about decluttering, and we will in just a minute. Painting, kitchens, baths, sunlight, minor changes that you can do, taking down draperies. The new consumer that's buying your properties these days, they're not even putting up draperies. They're putting up shades. They want the sunlight. This is a very simple renovation that happened in a bathroom. One of our agents walked through the property and gave some suggestions to this homeowner. They neutralized, obviously, the tile, painted it a fresh coat of, I think that's probably pale oak from Benjamin Moore. Just a little bit of staging related to towels and some greenery. It looks like a totally different room. This was obviously a family room that we previewed with some minor changes of some furniture and once again a little bit of painting. You can see that there's a whole different look to the living room on the lower level. People love color. Unfortunately, they don't want to buy color. A lot of times you have personalized your property to the point where you're so comfortable with it, all of your furnishings work. It needs to be neutralized. And if you've seen nothing from the television shows, you can see that editing out color and some of your personalization is really going to mean dollars to you in the long run. This is the same room, same couches, frankly. Changed up the rug, took away the bright red paint. Looks like a totally different plan. So you want the buyer to be able to visualize them living in your property. This, once again, simple change. They painted the fireplace, which you don't automatically see at first blush. The chandelier got swapped out. This is the same table and chairs. It's just totally different photograph angle. We can help you walk through a lot of this, and that's what Liz and Jan are experts at. I hate to say this, but this was my dining room. Now, obviously, it was during the holiday season. I was in love with my countenance out wallpaper and draperies and the brass. It was just amazing. When I had my realtors walk through with me, it was painful for them to say, the wallpaper's got to go, the draperies have got to come down, we're going to switch out that lighting. And so eventually this is how my dining room went on the market. That actually is a repurposed bureau from my son's room on the right, some neutral photos. We did do a drum lighting fixture. Those are Pottery Barn, very straight and narrow panels. I rented a couple of chairs, so it's a very neutral appeal. You don't have to go to this extreme. I was a realtor, and it was going to be important for me to make sure that I could get my property sold quickly, and so we did some investing, and frankly, it paid off considerably. We have a program where you're saying to yourself, oh my goodness, I've got this painting to do and maybe a bathroom, and how does this happen? Do I have to take out an equity loan? Do I have to dip into my savings? We have an amazing program called the White Glove Program. We have vendors that are ready, willing, and able to do the work, and then get paid from the proceeds of your sale. So it's like a loan, only you don't have to pay it back until after you close. I'm happy to go into detail with that with you one-on-one. What you can do is create an unforgettable experience because you have the ability to freshen up your rooms. You can elevate your home's value if you put it on the market. Without the refresh, you certainly will sell it, but you may not sell it for the equity that you're, the proceeds that you're hoping. And we use experienced vendors. We manage the process for you. It's all done through our White Glove program. So that's a great program to talk about. Through that program, we will do cleaning, decluttering, just countertops, painting, some cosmetics, even professional staging. So if you feel like that staging is not something that you'd like to write a check for before you sell, we can certainly include that in that White Glove plan. It gives you the pre-sale home preparation services without cash out of pocket. I'm going to turn this over to Jan and Liz, because now we talk about getting Cinderella ready for the ball. You've done your roof repair and you've done some faucet, repairs, and you've changed out some filters on your boiler and your furnace. And now it's kind of, how do you present the property to the market? So Jan and Liz, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share your screen and introduce yourselves to our guests.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Jan Poulain with Liz Larson, my business partner for Perfectly Booked For You Staging. Been around for quite a few years, and thank you so much, Laurie, for having us today as part of your program. We're just going to kind of go through some of the process and some of the things that you might not think about that are they're kind of somewhat obvious, but maybe you haven't thought about it. So it'll kind of start you to get your head wrapped around the process of what you want to do to begin with staging.
A lot of the things that Laurie talked about we're going to actually kind of highlight as well, because they are very important, which is, I think, good to hear again. So again, thank you for being here today, and we're going to get right to it.
So Liz, why don't you start off with what the benefits are?
Yeah, sure. So like Laurie was talking about, when your buyers are coming through, our goal is to certainly get the property to resonate with them. We want them to feel so comfortable, so welcoming, and that they can understand the function of the space. They can understand the lifestyle that they're going to have, and that they can even visualize the scale of the space, which is why we would come up with a particular floor plan for each room in your property. Mm-hmm. Of course, removing distractions like clutter and collectibles, items like that. We will talk about how to pack them up for you. And we've seen over the years that our clients really appreciate being well prepared, and that it helps them get to the end goal in a much more comfortable fashion.
Right, exactly. And there's a lot of statistics that support that over time we've found, and Laurie mentioned it earlier too, people, the first 10 seconds in a property, they have their initial impression. So they've made up their mind about it. So you definitely want to take the step to do these, take the extra steps to get the house looking like it should. They sell even prior to this market many times more quickly than non-stage properties.
Here's another slide of stats. So as you can see, they spend less time on the market. They're highly perceived online, and buyers are more willing to come through. And then your investment actually gets, the value of your investment is actually then potentially returned to you.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And so these are some of the rooms that are, the whole house obviously needs to shine and showcase and be picture perfect ready, but these are those rooms that buyers are really interested in. So we focus a lot of attention on these.
Right. You have to kind of start to look at your property through different eyes. We all get used to things the way that they have been for many years. But think of perceived value for each space, versus, just living in the property with everything as you've had it for many years.
All right, so now we're going to go through some of the simple ways that you yourselves can add some of this value that we're talking about into your own properties. And again, some of these will be repetitive. So first impression, 100%. That is where your buyers are being welcomed into your home, and you want them to want to open that door and stay there as long as possible. So, maybe your entrance could use even a doorbell that's working versus one that's not, or maybe the screen needs to be repaired.
That's the first of all the zones that's how they'll be greeted when they get to your property. So again, Laurie mentioned it, but having a front door color that pops, something that's very inviting, works with the overall scheme of the other finishes that are on the exterior of the house, really important. And there are certain ones that are trending right now. Liz's favorite color is orange, so I think that's why she picked that.
I love that orange. You've shown me up. I love the orange.
Yeah. So the welcome mat, power washing, when our team comes to your property, those are the things that we're going to be talking about and checking off, and letting you know which ones we really feel need to be addressed.
And there's certain things like lighting fixtures. Again, are they trending? What style is it? Versus maybe something that's a colonial fixture that was super popular. I don't know. We got it. Oops.
Are you guys here? Are you guys seeing all that?
Yep,
okay,
we can hear you. That's
there
good.
we go. Okay.
So again, light fixtures are really important. So we'll often source a light fixture that we think works with the rest of the architecture of the house and is on trend, matte black fixtures versus maybe something that's a brass that might have over time worn. Things like that. I mean, they may seem like small details, but they do make an overall great impression.
Yeah. So, and just conveying that thanks for stopping by and please stay with us.
Okay.
All right. So,
again, natural light. So a lot of people invested in custom draperies for their homes, and they're very proud of them because they match the decor. It looks fantastic in their perception. But again, less is more. Laurie, you hit the nail on the head. We're kind of trying to go back to that new construction look, almost. So I'll have people take everything off the wall, touch up the wall around it, off the window rather, and just open it up. I will even ask people if they have an old blind or shade, if they don't use it for privacy, just take it down. Less is more. Vitamin D, great thing.
and fixing it today, why that is an important part of the process. The prevention, just that little prevention can help buyers, their perception in such a big way. So those repairs that we talked about, you want to keep things current. You want them to feel like you've valued your property. It gives buyers that impression that the home has been well taken care of. And the regular maintenance will just not only feel good to the buyers, but to yourselves.
It's little things too, you know, like people that have gone blind to them after being in the property for a long time. So it could be like a torn screen or a broken seal on a window. And you want to just make sure that you take care of that. So we along with the realtors will provide resources for that if you need that fixed. Again, we don't even see it anymore, but it's going to be very important to giving that underlying impression of, again, well taken care of.
Okay, next. Going neutral, not boring.
I know people are always sad when we, like, I think you had a red room up earlier, Laurie. They're always sad when we take away their color, but you know, again, it's super taste specific. But there are a lot of great neutral paints out there right now that will work with everything else. So, you know, they're very rich. I've had people say I'm sick of gray. You know, taupe is coming. So, you know, and it's a matter of deciding. And again, we don't want you to paint the whole house most of the time. We're trying to pick colors that are going to transition from one room to the next, whatever is adjacent to it. So think about it in terms of that too. We put up a slide here of some of the ones that that we've used a lot of out of, you know, Sherwin and Benjamin Moore. Huge trend for the grays is kind of like with blue now, you know, like they'll do like a blue undertone or taupe. A lot of those are, again, grayish colors. I've seen even people paint their kitchen cabinets, you know, you've seen that probably for many years. The island is something a little bit different if they're painting cabinets. But again, that we're not going to try to give you projects that are just to give you projects. We're going to try to help you prioritize. Could be just maybe the backsplash in the kitchen is really calling all the attention and we need to just calm that down, or do something a little, you know, a little less busy that's going to, you know, call to the other things in the kitchen.
Yeah. So the goal would be, when it comes to painting, is we don't want to overpower the room. We want the features of that room to be seen first. So that would be why we would potentially talk about painting, you know, changing out colors. You saw that slide with the red wall, and then you were able to actually see the entire room. So it brought more space to the room.
I'm surprised I don't have pale oak up here. That's one I use tons of.
Yeah.
We recommend that a lot. There's just a whole host of colors that we know will work really well. And these are just some of the go-tos. And again, it's all about, like, when you pick paint colors, it's about undertones, you know, so you kind of have to have those things work together. Again, go-to colors, always staying lighter, you know, it's all about light reflection. So,
And then when you have that neutral background, then we can introduce some pops of color. And that would be where we create what we call a color story. This pulls a buyer through the home. So as a stager, what we recommend to our buyers is to to our sellers, is to try to have a color story in each space. So if in fact that front door that we had, that orange door, you then see these orange pillows, and then in the next room, there might be orange flowers. So it's just a way to kind of guide that buyer through and feel like everything is purposeful and cohesive. And you should try it yourselves in your home. You can just kind of look through and see if one piece of art works in the other room. And if not, that could be a reason, like you can then figure out if in fact you might need to change some art or some of your accessories.
If you have like a center hall entry and home where you've got a dining room to the left and a living room to the right, you know, what's in your peripheral vision? How do all those things kind of work together? You know, does one piece of artwork kind of play with the other? And a lot of people won't be able to articulate that, but it just feels better. It feels more balanced when they look at a space. So, you know, again, tying different elements together and repeating in a purposeful way, always with a sense of intention is what we try to do.
So I would imagine we're going through a lot of details here. So if you're taking some notes, you know, you can ask us some questions at the end of the presentation, and we're almost there. We're halfway through.
You know, key items for, you know, the color story are, again, like that easy items to replace in a room, or, you know, what you want to do is kind of go through your house and hunt some of these things down, you know, like art, pillows, rugs, bedding, all of those things will help kind of do this on a bright, neutral base palette, you know, and then you work on top of that. That's kind of one way to approach it.
And then there's another element in our homes, and it's light, which we talked about earlier, right, Jen?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the general natural light, which is, I think, king in staging and making your photos look great online. You want to maximize that all the time. Again, your paint colors play into that as well. But, you know, your lighting in general in New England, what we have certain times of the year after 4 o'clock, it's, you know, pitch black. So you want to consider that when you're dressing your rooms for staging and just for general living. You know, you can you know, really make a style statement with light fixtures. You know, we have a variety here that are kind of pretty. Some of them are a little more detailed than others. It creates a mood in a room. It helps kind of either soften or brighten things as they're needed. And then, you know, things that people don't often do, and I see this a ton when I go into houses, is we all get used to living with light bulbs that are out, you know, and you know, it really is necessary to just kind of, again, try to look at the whole situation with fresh eyes.
So yeah, not only making sure that they're that all the light bulbs are working, but also buyers today are also looking for energy efficient lighting. So that could be something to be considering.
Placement of light fixtures is really important too. I always tell people that, you know, sometimes they don't have lamps or they don't even use a room, you know, in a way that needs a ton of light. So like, it'll be like a living room and they don't have maybe a pair of lamps to flank the sofa. I always tell people to try to create some sort of a triangle of light in their room. So maybe it's a floor lamp and then 2 lamps that flank a sofa, and that's somewhat of a triangle. If they can't do that, try to place the light fixtures like in a diagonal positioning, because that will allow them the most even dispersion of light. And if you have, you know, pot lights and so forth, that's even better because they're all dimmable and all that good stuff.
Under counter cabinet lighting, I see.
Oh, I know.
Picture. Yeah. Okay. Cabinet hardware is one of the things that we address as well when we're at a consultation. And it's actually one of the most cost-effective things that you can do in your kitchen for a facelift. So if in fact you have the oak cabinets and we're not changing anything, whether it's because of time, there are, you know, it just changes the look so quickly.
I know. I always talk about it like jewelry with an outfit. You know, it's like the finishing touch, and it can shift. Again, all of these different types of elements that we use in staging, they can shift a room stylistically, you know. So again, maybe it was, you know, something that you picked or the builder even picked a while ago. By taking that and just rethinking it. Lots of different finishes out there too with regard to resale. You might want to pick something that's a little more timeless. I know right now in design, there's a lot of gold trending. There are even 2-tone fixtures. You can spend a lot of money. We always try to help people find looks that are, again, somewhat timeless and cost effective if they're looking to sell their property. You know, there's a lot of matte black out there right now because of, you know, the modern farmhouse style that's popular. So anyway, lots of ways to do that and in a cost-effective way. Bathroom vanities, same thing, you know, built-ins, all that good stuff. You can take your cue from other elements that are in the room, you know, like, so if your light fixtures happen to be brushed nickel, you might want to go with brushed nickel, you know, fixtures, that sort of thing.
Okay, our next screen, working with us. So, Jen, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, when you work with a professional stager, you want them to be a part of your real estate team, and that's what we focus on. We want to be working in conjunction with you and the realtor to create a plan that's going to help you feel like you've got your head around this process, which again can be a little bit daunting. And your timeline is our timeline. We have, we have just not just Liz and I, but we also have team members that help us execute these things with added flexibility for your convenience. And it all starts with a consultation. Okay, can you guys see that? No good? Okay.
We can see it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the consultation, again, so it's a process, right? Liz, you want to talk about how we do our consults?
Yeah, so again, as Jan said, we have a team. And whether it's our staging company that you're interested in working with or another, it's pretty straightforward. Your stager is going to provide you with a step-by-step plan for each space. We'll walk through with you and we'll discuss why we think that something should be edited or something should be painted. And we're gonna make sure that you're part of that process. So we're not gonna just come in and give you this list of things to do just because. They're well thought out, and they're things that we know from working with one of the realtors. They're going to know what the other properties in the area have or don't have. So
Right.
Again, we're not going to be suggesting to change out countertops if that's not something that needs to happen immediately.
Right.
If it's going to add value, perceived value, or actual money value, then of course they're going to be discussed. We could potentially be talking to you about, this floor plan, and it's going to be all those items that we've been talking about, and we're going to put them in an outline for you. Which ones should be done immediately, which ones should be looked at possibly later.
I always tell people that it's kind of like a big puzzle, and we try to utilize everything that you have in your property already, with a lot of editing and rearranging. I mean, we don't do that on the first appointment. We talk about it so that we know that you're on board, you're comfortable with it.
Right.
So, the option A is provided, and then we talk to you and you give us the feedback, and then we streamline the plan, and that ends up being the plan. For some people, certain things don't work. Maybe an area rug isn't going to work because somebody has a mobility issue. All that stuff has to come into play when you make a staging plan, and it's very personal for each seller.
Right.
And what they are willing to do and not do, and again, what's going to give the greatest impact for the least amount of money to be invested.
And effort. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Okay. So then we would discuss a schedule of a staging date, and we would be doing that in conjunction again with the realtor and making sure that the timeline is all worked out. So you can be assured that we are in constant contact with everybody. It's a team, basically. It's a team effort, and we all want to get to the end result. So we're always available.
Yeah. I mean, whether you communicate best by text, email, or phone, because you kind of work your way through the process. You get this plan, and then, there might be some projects that you want to do in advance. And then, finally the staging happens, whether we're just coming in to fine tune what is existing in the property, or perhaps there's inventory that you need. Our company is structured so that we can provide those things if you need them. But again,
yeah, as you can see, so we have a process in place, so that way the whole, we're organized. We make sure that we're following all the steps and keeping you in the loop, but so that you don't have to actually worry about it.
Yep.
We work with vendors as well. And this is the part that everybody sort of seems to be enjoying. We're actually at the end of the presentation, and this is that visual experience that buyers experience that Laurie touched upon as well with the befores and after. So
That's great.
Okay, so here's this room, very well lived in, very well loved, and you know, a little tight in the space.
Well, everybody has a lot more stuff in real life. I always tell people we don't live the way we sell.
Yeah.
So, you know, just again, the architecture on this particular property happened to be very contemporary on the exterior.
I'm going
So
to
it's
switch
like
to the next one.
A deck sort of house. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So again, same room, same, that was all their furniture. You know, we just reworked things so it would kind of work more with the architecture, change the light fixture out.
Again, this is a really sweet room, and obviously very comfy and cozy, and
More traditional furnishings.
Yeah. So this is how it ended up looking.
Definitely more streamlined, much more natural light, beautiful hardwood floors.
You know, one of the things about staging is exactly that. We want to make sure that we enhance the pieces of the property that people are looking for.
Yeah.
Small little dining room. So we talked earlier about potentially changing out light fixtures. We talked about coordinating the accessories with your art, and that's what happened here. This dining room has the exact same dining room table as that belonged to the homeowners. We just brought in a few little things.
Change the wall color.
Yep.
I don't know anybody who has a teenager kid in their room always looks like this. I know I still live through it, and my kids are older than that.
But we want it showcased, so this is how we staged it.
Yeah, I mean, again, you may have some of these items kind of, you know, look through your house and think about some of the things that you might not be currently using, but think about them under the headings that we've talked about, you know, bright, neutral, and working your colors together. You have a lot of these things. I love a good puzzle, and that's kind of what this is all about.
Right. Okay, lots going on again.
Puppy crate.
Yep.
Everybody loves a good puppy. I know I love animals, but all buyers might not, so you want to always minimize that.
Nice, bright, airy, cheery, spacious.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, obviously the attention right here looks like it's the sofa, and you know, it just happened to be disheveled, but this room, we wanted the focus on these windows. So changing out the sofa allowed you to see the windows a lot better because the sofa is neutral, everything is cohesive. We talk about some of the clutter, and this room is perfectly neat. There's, you know, it's not unorganized at all. However, the bookshelves kind of got highlighted here.
They had to take that bed out. I really liked that bed, but they needed it at another property, I think. So we found, this was actually the bottom piece of the bed for like a double, like a bunk bed situation, you know, where you have the larger one underneath, and I had the movers disassemble that and use this bed in that room because they needed the other one.
So again, what Jen is explaining is that there are items in your home that we could help you understand that they could be used in a different way.
Like Laurie used her dresser in that dining room.
Right.
That looked great, Laurie. I loved the way your
Right.
dining room came out. Oh, it's like the guy from, oh God, what's that movie? The Plant.
Well, I just think
Anyway.
The Plant's tired and wants to take a nap, but
I mean, but it's a really bright bedroom, and
Yeah.
it's cute. And they had a kind of, you know, it was just, you know, I think, oh, well, there you go.
yeah. So
just reworking the bed.
again,
bedding.
using what the homeowners already had and just tidying it up.
I don't know what they did with the print.
I don't know.
I think they sent it off to somebody else's house. Again, in here, you know, window treatments, we've got a transitional light fixture. So they must have, I think they updated that prior to us getting there.
I bet you told them.
Right? I don't know with this one. But they, you know, we just streamlined it a little bit, cleaner lined, so that you notice that they have premium countertops and again, hardwood floors.
Little bedroom. How much? So this one we switched the bed. We put it on this wall instead because of the entry point of the room. So that's another thing that we want you to be thinking about is your buyer is looking into a room. So you don't want to necessarily block things from their vision.
In living rooms, it happens a lot. You know, like we position our furniture to live a certain way, but then when we want to sell, you always want to try to avoid having the back of a sofa or, you know, something that's going to cut visually the room and be a stopping point for people. You always want to invite a buyer in with, you know, extra textiles and things like that.
So speaking of inviting in, this room, there was a smaller entry to get to, but you could see this from the entry. And I know there was a young boy living
As
here
a
with
teenager, was
his
sad to
mom.
give up his card playing table, but and there's a hot tub in there. Anyway, kind of a just general rec space. Time did not allow, or they didn't want to change out those track lights up above, which again, you know, would have been something that might have shifted the room, but we were able to transform it with staging. Again, lighting, a lot of the wood trim and everything still exists, but again, great staging will help you fill in the cracks, meaning that if it's not in your timeline or your budget to do certain things, you can again visually and I don't know, emotionally shift a room by adding in other elements that are on trend or going to ring the bell of the buyer.
I mean, I still love calling it a visual experience because I think that that's what happens.
Yep.
We love this sign because we think it resonates really well with what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Jan and Liz, just we've got some questions. I know you love these. I love these before and after.
Yep, absolutely.
Obviously, one of the things that people want to know about is, so when do we call in a stager? I could talk about the fact that we as Barrett Sotheby's International have a steps to sold program. It incorporates Jan and Liz's timeline. It starts with a walkthrough. If you are selling next year and you're thinking there may be some things that you need to do, painting, improvements, etc., the earlier the better, because as I mentioned, you may be inclined to spend money in areas that we really feel like you shouldn't. As you've seen, Jan and Liz have walked you through some beautiful rooms. Frankly, some of it was paint, some of it wasn't paint, and some of it was some of your, you know, Jan and Liz are being pretty modest. They can transform an entire property because they've got a cache of furniture and lamps and rugs and what have you, or they can use a lot of your things, which they're going to try to do.
Right.
But I think the best plan is to try to get somebody in as soon as possible. Our Steps to Sold program starts with a visit and an assessment. We will say, oh, you're going to need a stager, or you don't need a stager. I mean, we've walked into some beautiful homes. I wish the people had staged my property. So, you know, it really depends on the plan. My husband spent a weekend swapping out brass handles for oil rub bronze. You know, that doesn't take weeks and months. And if you don't have the handyman to do it like I did, we have the vendors to kind of help you through that. If you need to switch out lighting fixtures, etc., you know, now unfortunately with the pandemic, those lighting fixtures are not coming in 3 days anymore. They may be a little more hard to get. So, you know, I think the answer to your question is as soon as possible. I wanted to mention just one thing when we're talking about paint samples, because there's a new program, a new company called Sampleize. Have you heard about them?
Yes.
They will send you for $5 or $6 these peel and stick samples of paint. So if you don't want someone to come in and tell you which paint, or you're trying to kind of figure out whether you like, gray owl versus et cetera, you can put these paint samples up on in your area, and you can see what, the lighting is like, the sunlight is like. There's so many areas now for people to be able to sort of investigate things on their own. Let me take a peek at, you can certainly put your questions in the chat, but I'm also happy to have you unmute yourself if you'd like. I'm going to ask Jan and Liz to stop sharing their screen.
Okay.
We can see your faces if you have your cameras on. And we will, as I mentioned, we will be happy to answer any questions that you've got. What I'd like to, can follow up with the question that was asked. We are now evaluating properties for the spring market. Jan and Liz are on appointments to kind of help people decide what to do to get ready for a March 1st or March 15th or March 30th or April 1st time to market. That doesn't mean that it's not a good idea for you to invite us in if you're thinking about next fall. So as I mentioned, we need at least a couple of weeks to give you some help. And if you need furnishings or you need painting or what have you, you may need a little bit longer. But the bottom line is we're happy to work with you. And I think, as I mentioned, sooner than the better.
Yeah, I mean, the reason for this whole seminar that you're providing was to let everybody know that getting prepared is something that we can help you with. That
Absolutely.
everyone, the whole team.
Greg's asking a question: who can help us determine which home inspector flagged items can remain as disclosures? Example, metal clad door to an attached garage versus a metal fire rated door and frame. So there's always a question on whether you should invite a home inspector into your property before you put your property on the market. We typically don't recommend that. First of all, it's expensive. Home inspections are somewhere between $300 and $600. And the home inspector that your buyer selects may uncover items that your home inspector did not. If you feel like there are elements that you really are concerned about, you can certainly give a call to a home inspector. We've got some vendors that you can chat with about code issues. Should it be a metal door versus a wooden door between the garage? We're happy to point you in the direction of getting answers to those questions. We also have a list of home inspectors that will do a walkthrough for you if you'd like. But typically, we've got a pretty good understanding of what the home inspector is looking for related to systems and those services. Obviously, septic system needs to be done ahead of time, but there's that caveat of, even if you do a home inspection, the buyer's home inspector may come up with some other items, so it's not an ironclad answer. Have the owners moved out already before you stage in most cases? My answer is no. Most of the time we're working with their stuff. I will never forget, we staged our property. My husband said to me, "Why are we selling? The place looks fabulous." The paint's neutral now. The family room looks great. So we're in the process of doing all of that work so that you can continue to live in the property.
Yeah, and I think Jen's probably going to say the same thing. Again, the sooner you start, you get to enjoy it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And many of the sellers that we work with will ask us to go to their new home and select things as they move in, because they wish they had done things like Liz said, a lot sooner.
Right. Yeah, that's a great, I think that's what we recognize is, oh my goodness, I couldn't pick the paint color for my existing home. How am I going to pick the paint color for the place I'm moving to? Call in an expert and get some advice.
People hyperventilate sometimes when they see a fan deck. They're like, oh no.
Have you ever stood in front of those paint chips at you know, Phillips Hardware, there's 150,000 paints now. So,
Love
you know,
it.
it used to be,
It's
it's all
not,
planned.
we don't get overwhelmed.
That's true. Anybody else have a question that we can help you with? We do have a program, as you're thinking about it, we do have a program called Buy Before You Sell. You know, there's an element of the market right now that unfortunately inventory is very, very tight. Some people may want to know exactly where they're moving before they sell. And this program will assist you in the financing of that plan. You know, we actually have the white glove service that allows you to sell your home to the service and then move on and buy as a cash buyer. So there's lots of programs that we could talk about that we have in our tool bag. Liz and Jan are obviously one of them, but we'd love to have the opportunity to have you invite us in complimentary and give you some advice on the whole process. That's why we created that Steps to Sold program. It starts with the first initial call and a visit, and hopefully the end of the process is you moving on to someplace wonderful. Do we need to prepare a binder for the buyer with the service agreements and work done? We recommend any pamphlets, instructions, you know, your appliance booklets, all of that. The best sellers in the world will walk through as the stewards of their property with the new buyer, explaining who did your lawn, you know, irrigation system, or who's your snow plow person, or, you know, do you use a snow plow person? I think that it would be a good idea to collect all of your paperwork. Absolutely. Buyers are going to fall in love with your property, and they want to know that you've been in love with your property and have taken care of it, and, you know, have a big binder or folder for them of stuff that, you know, has been really, really important. If you've had a major repair, the septic system, for instance, you know, needed a new D-box, or you want to absolutely document that. They will want the vendor that did it, just in case they have any future problems. But you also want to make sure that as part of the value that you're presenting to the buyer through the property, that they know that you have invested $7,000 or $5,000 in a new air conditioning system. Or so you want to make sure that you keep all of those receipts, not just for us, but for the IRS. Is the Buy Before You Sell program available if moving to New Hampshire? It's available to you moving anywhere you'd like. Las Vegas, Florida, Cape Cod, absolutely. Anyone else? I'm happy to have you unmute if you'd like and chat with us. I hope you found this valuable.
Come up with questions later, Laurie, just
yes, we will
shoot them to us.
Absolutely. So what I would like to do, with your permission, obviously, we're not going to bombard you with email, but I will be sending you the vendor list of our tried and true vendors. I will send you along the email address for Liz and Jan, and also obviously you'll have my email address. If you'd like to start this process with a realtor, I'm happy to introduce you to any one of our folks in our area. Tell me a little bit about your property. In the meantime, we'll send you the cost versus value report that I mentioned, which says $80,000 kitchen, 50% return. You know, it's a national magazine that does that valuation every year, and this one was from 2020. We'll send the vendor list. We'll send the contact information from Liz and Jan, and also my contact information.
Yeah, we
How do
can't
people get in touch with you?
Barrett Sotheby's enough. You'll be in such.
Well, thank you very much. My email address is lcadigan@barrettsir.com. John, maybe you could put that in the chat to everybody. And Liz and Jan are available at perfectlyplacedforyou@yahoo. And there is no charge for our consultation services. That's the question that's come up. Liz and Jan will do a walkthrough, give you an idea of what they think needs to be done. We start the process with a walkthrough with one of our realtors. It's a complimentary service. You are not obligated to use either one of us. This service is a public service, and we just want people to feel comfortable in their real estate process. So, you know, we're happy to help. I'm thrilled that you were happy with the presentation. We're getting a lot of feedback about, you can tell that we're passionate about the work that we do. If that doesn't come through, nothing will. That we're, Liz and Jan have been in their business for a long time. I've been in my business for a long time. And we have realtors that are very passionate about where we live and love, and would love to talk to you about the possibility of moving forward. So if I don't see any other, we catch you about 7 minutes over. We thought this would be about an hour. I'm going to say this again. If you'd like to attend the downsizing seminar or another Prepare Your Home, we're doing 2 more sessions on downsizing. I believe you can use the same link. And if not, just send us an email and we're happy to make sure that you get all the materials for that as well. John, I think that we're about done. If I don't see any other questions, give me a wave, and thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Happy Valentine's Day. Hope to see you on
happy
another
Valentine's
session.
Same to
Day.
you.
Thank you
All
very
righty,
much,
take
Laurie.
care.
Thanks for having
Thanks for
us.
inviting us.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. It was very
Alrighty.
enjoyable.
Stay
Thank you.
warm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.